Been a long time since I covered the initial arcade Street Fighter II series, but now we can finally look at the next game in the series, Street Fighter Alpha: Warrior's Dreams. This game is an interquel, set before Street Fighter II but after the first game. It's also not canon anymore, as Street Fighter Alpha 2 is a retelling of this game's story and overrides it in the continuity. Now, I know at the time a lot of people were irritated at the fact the next game wasn't just Street Fighter 3, but since I wasn't into Street Fighter until the early to mid 2000s, I was never part of that experience. But I've also never really played that much of this game either, as I first got access to it with the Street Fighter Alpha Anthology, where I played every other game on the disc more. I think I gave it the one full arcade run to unlock Hyper Street Fighter Alpha, but that was it. As I said, this is set between the first two games, but this time the story does not concern a tournament. This time, every character is on their own separate quest as they travel the world and occasionally cross paths with each other. Gameplay takes what was present in Super Street Fighter II Turbo and adds more to it. We still have the free punches and free kicks with your quarter circles and stuff for special moves, that's not going anywhere. Super Combo meter returns but now has 3 levels to it, with extra buttons pressed when activating the Super Combo draining more meter for a stronger attack. There's the new Alpha counters, an input that has a character block an attack and then immediately counter with a special move. Usually a quarter circle back to down and either punch or kick while blocking. Finally, a new combo system with the normal attacks by following up the hit of a normal with another normal of equal or greater strength. But overall, what's most important to someone like me, who has never been good at Street Fighter, is that the command inputs feel more forgiving here than they did in the 2 series, which I'm always thankful for. It's either that or I've gotten better, and I doubt that. So let's move on to the cast. We have 13 characters in this game, 10 you can see normally on the select screen, and 3 more played as through codes. As usual, we're starting with good old Ryu. While the Alpha series does give Ryu a character arc, most of that stuff is missing until Alpha 2. For now, after defeating Sagat and winning Street Fighter 1, Ryu is travelling the world looking for new strong opponents to improve himself against. Instead of a single final boss, every character has their own unique opponent for their final battle, complete with pre-fight dialogue. In Ryu's case, his arcade run ends with a fight against Sagat, who is out for revenge for his loss and the scar on his chest from Ryu's Metsu Shoryuken. Ryu retains his 3 classic special moves, the Hadouken with quarter circle forward punch, with the heavy punch version being on fire, the Shoryuken with the Z input or whatever you prefer to call it, and the Tatsumaki Senpu Kyak with quarter circle back and kick. His first super combo is the Shinku Hadouken with double quarter circle forward and punch. Then he has the Shinku Tatsumaki Senpu Kyak with double quarter circle back and kick. Ryu is Ryu, always a safe bet to have a fun time with if you can't decide on anyone. The only new comment I can really make about his gameplay is that I'm not a fan of the Shinku Tatsumaki Senpu Kyak. If my super combo isn't a projectile, I at least like to be moving. I can't really say anything about his story, as not only is this game's story so basic, I can't talk about what this means for Ryu's overall story because it's no longer canon, and not even in the separate continuity sense like the Street Fighter EX games, it's just not part of continuity anymore. I do like how the Alpha series tries to bridge the gap between 1 and 2 with Ryu's appearance. He's wearing a headband now, unlike the first game, but it's a white one and not the red one he has in Street Fighter 2. Plus, in Street Fighter 1, Ryu had red hair but brown in Street Fighter 2, so here they split the difference and made it brown with a reddish tint. Plus, the art style of the Alpha games in general makes him look younger. His new stage takes place in the middle of a street with a dojo next door to a little shop. He's not taking part in any tournament in this game, just travelling, so any random street he'd pass through on his travels makes sense for a stage. Ryu's theme is one of those tracks that has been arranged so many times that they start to blend together eventually, but I like this version. It's a more jazzy take on the original song, and it fits a Ryu who should feel on top of the world since he's just recently been crowned the world's best fighter. Of course, when talking about Ryu, it just makes sense to cover Ken Masters right after. While training alone, Ken hears of Ryu's victory over Sagat and decides he wants another fight with his best friend to see how much he has improved. Fittingly, Ryu is his final opponent. Ken complains about how hard Ryu is to actually track down, and the two brag about how they'll beat the other. He has the same specials as Ryu as usual, but this game does keep Super Turbo's decision to make Ken more kick focused than Ryu. It's also the game that decides that while Ryu's Hadouken is his signature move, Ken gravitates towards the Shoryuken as both of his super combos involve it. The Shoryu Reppa is done with double quarter circle forward and punch, then there's the Shinryuken with double quarter circle forward and kick. That last one is another stationary super combo, but there is more vertical movement, so I like it more than the Shinku Tatsumaki Senpu Kyak. Overall, I enjoy Ken more than Ryu in this game. I even beat Ken's arcade mode in half the time it took me as Ryu. I feel that's how it tends to go in most games. The amount I enjoy Ryu is pretty much a constant throughout the series. It's Ken whose gameplay my enjoyment of fluctuates for every game. I guess maybe because Ryu is designed as the default and Ken is the offshoot? I don't know. Ken is still a head swap, but he is more visually distinct from Ryu than before. I do feel that Street Fighter 2 Ken does look a little more dated than the rest. But in the alpha art style he's much improved, plus the long ponytail they gave him works so much better in 2D than his SF2 shaggy mop. Like Ryu, his stage is also a street, but we're seeing it at a different angle, and it's an American street rather than a Japanese one. And it's at night with a cool purple sky. I think it's one of the game's better stages. I'm a big fan of the guy in the back who decided that the sounds of the brutal street fight are perfect for dancing to. Ken's theme has had a slight change halfway through, but I couldn't tell you whether or not I prefer it like this or like it to sound more classic. Let's continue with the Street Fighter 2 returnees by looking at Chun-Li. At this point before Street Fighter 2, Chun-Li is still investigating her father's death, having become a detective herself after frustration at it still being unsolved. But at this point she doesn't yet know of Shadowlu's and M. Bison's part in it for certain. She is looking into them though, mainly for their drug dealing, hoping to find any clues. Her final battle in the arcade run is against M. Bison, trying to get him under arrest for his dealing. Chun-Li still has her Hyakuretsu Kyak by rapidly tapping kick, her spinning bird kick with charge down up and kick, and her Kikoken with charge back forward and punch. She also retains her ability to wall jump and bounce off the opponent's face. She also gets a new move, the Senenshu, an axe kick with quarter circle back and kick. Chun-Li has 3 super combos. First is the Senretsu Kyak with charge back, forward, and kick. There's her Kikosha with double quarter circle forward and punch. Then the Hazan Tensho Kyak with charge down back, down forward, down back, down up and kick. That one was a nightmare for me to pull off. First, commands with up in them can always get fucked. Second, the game just thought I was doing the Senretsu Kyak every other time. Chun-Li's still a charge character, so I still have trouble with her. I'm always thankful for her wall jumps, and the addition of the Senenshu with its normal non-charge input is something I'm very thankful for. That being said, despite having so much trouble with her normal special moves, the Senretsu Kyak that contains a charge input and extra steps on top somehow came out most times I tried it and was very helpful for me. The big thing to talk about when it comes to Chun-Li in Alpha is the new outfit. While I do prefer the classic Chi Pao, I think this is a very good second outfit. It keeps Chun-Li's colour scheme showing off her more athletic side. I'd say this outfit may fit her more than her classic outfit, but the Chi Pao has been too ingrained into her image for me. Her stage is just sort of okay. She's Chinese, so she gets the Great Wall of China. It looks fine, but the idea just feels a bit phoned in. This game's version of her theme feels more high energy than the original. I had this whole thing in my head about how the Marvel vs Capcom 3 version of her theme soured me on it because it felt so phoned in, and that I thought most other arrangements of it were phoned in too. Then I discovered that I already said that back in the Street Fighter 2 video. The gap between covering these games has been too long. Let's cover the last of the Street Fighter 2 characters of the default 10 with Sagat. Sagat is still fuming over Ryu coming out of nowhere claiming his title after enjoying his fame for so many years. He's looking for Ryu to give him a good pasting to prove he's still the best. His final opponent is Ryu, though at least the dialogue is different than it is on Ryu's version. Sagat retains his Tiger Shot with quarter circle forward and punch for the standing version and kick for the crouching version. His Tiger Uppercut with the Z input and punch, and Tiger Crush with the Z input and kick. His super combos are the Tiger Cannon with double quarter circle forward and punch, Tiger Raid with double quarter circle back and kick, and the Tiger Genocide with double quarter circle forward and kick. Despite the name, not even a single tiger is harmed during it. I enjoy Sagat for having easy to perform specials the way I do Ryu and Ken. I don't enjoy him as much as those two though, since he's slower and such a big target. I also don't find his super combos as useful as theirs and tend to get smacked out of them. Sagat is one of the biggest winners from the Alpha art style. They got his proportions just right to make him large and intimidating. He makes the Street Fighter 2 Sagat look like a malnourished Sagat cosplayer in comparison. What did not come over as well was his stage, the same Buddha statue from Street Fighter 2 but viewed at a different angle. And I'm not saying it wasn't well drawn, it absolutely is. The issue is that extreme close-ups of the soles of feet gross me out. If I ever watch something where the creator is failing to hide their foot fetish and centers the soles on the screen, I hate it and it makes me feel sick. All the extra detail given on the toes is making me especially queasy. Don't like it. Sagat is at his smartest in this game because he knows the best way to beat someone in a fighting game is to make them not want to look at the screen. Nothing much to say about his theme in this game, it doesn't stand out as much different from the original. There's a new section, but I don't find it that memorable. With the Street Fighter 2 characters checked out, let's go further back and look at the characters making their comeback from Street Fighter 1, starting with Birdie. Since the first game, Birdie has been banned from most tournaments thanks to his temper and usage of things like chains, which are normally not allowed in a martial arts tournament. While working as a bouncer, he hears rumours about Shadaloo and how they are recruiting strong men and decides he wants to join them. His final battle has him finally reach M. Bison and ask for a job, only to get rejected unless Birdie defeats him. Birdie has a headbutt with charge back, forward and punch. There's his sledgehammer by holding punch and kick for a second and releasing. Then a full circle and punch is a chain move that I am certain is what got him the ban. His first super combo is the jackhammer with charge back, forward and punch. His second is the Bull Revenger with double quarter circle forward and punch or kick. Birdie exists to take the Zangief role as the big slow grappler, so of course I struggled with him. At least his headbutt gives him better mobility than Zangief had in 2, so he has that going for him. This is just a character whose gameplay I don't mesh with, so I can't fault the character or his moveset, he just isn't for me. As for his design, Birdie has been much upgraded from the first game. The chains, the tattoo, the mohawk with a hole in it, the beard. The Birdie of Street Fighter 1 was just nothing, but here they made something out of the character. It's also nice when an English guy in a fighting game isn't just either a boxer, a posho or both, and yet despite that a posho English boxer is a contender for my favourite Street Fighter character. Also, Birdie is black now, with the canon explanation for him being white in Street Fighter 1 being that he was very ill in that game. This was 1995, so YouTube grifters hadn't been invented yet to try and pretend SF1 Birdie was an important white icon. And even if they try today, everyone knows SF1 Birdie is nothing. When we reach Birdie's stage, we run into an issue in that there aren't enough stages in the game for everyone on the roster to have their own stage. There are only 6 stages in this game, each with 2 variants. And Birdie's Colosseum stage was clearly designed for another character first and just given to him at a different time of day and with some cats included. I can tell it wasn't designed for him because he's a British punk and the other characters have the Colosseum stage in Italy is the game's Italian character. I do notice and appreciate the Way of a Dragon tribute though. As for his theme music, it's okay but nowhere near as memorable as the returning Street Fighter 2 tracks we've had so far. Our other Street Fighter 1 returnee is a guy I was not very kind to all the way back in that video, Adon. As a fellow Muay Thai fighter, watching his master Sagat's loss to Ryu filled him with a deep disappointment. So he wants to batter Sagat himself to prove that Muay Thai is still great, that Sagat just let it down, and that Adon is the new king of Muay Thai. So of course his final battle is against Sagat. He has his Jaguar kick with backward Z input and kick, his Rising Jaguar with quarter circle forward, up forward and kick, and his Fang kick with half circle back and kick. His super combos are the Jaguar Varied Assault with double quarter circle forward and punch, and the Jaguar Fury with double quarter circle back and kick. Adon was okay to play as. I wasn't a huge fan of his specials though, so I didn't get a lot out of playing as him. Plus, I think I'm still harbouring a grudge for being a nightmare back in Street Fighter 1. They've certainly upgraded his look so that he looks all crazy, but he's still ugly, and I still don't care much for the character. His stage is Sagat's stage but at day instead of during the night. I still don't like it for the feet. But the best part about Adon is his theme music. It's probably my favourite theme to be introduced in this game. I remember hearing it out of context years ago and never realised it was a Street Fighter song. I thought it was a Mega Man X level theme. Our next 2 characters exist to set in stone the fact that Street Fighter and Final Fight take place in the same continuity. So next we have Guy. Since it is confirmed that the Alpha games take place after Final Fight 1, we can assume that for Guy, this is during his training journey that kept him from rescuing his own fiancée and future father-in-law in Final Fight 2. The reason for said journey being that the experience of fighting the Mad Gears in Final Fight 1 made him doubt his progress in the art of Bushinryu. His final opponent is M. Bison because Bison is evil. He has his Whirlwind Kick, a more vertical take on the Tatsumaki Senpu Kyak with quarter circle back and kick. Quarter circle forward and kick is the Dashing Crescent, a forward dash that can be followed up with an extra attack depending on which kick button you press during it. Stopping with a light kick, a sweep with medium kick, and a jumping kick with heavy kick. Then there's the Bushin Izuna drop with quarter circle forward and punch. Pressing punch again while going through the air will have Guy swap the throw with an elbow drop. A double quarter circle forward and punch is the Bushun Hasoken. His other super combo is the Bushin Go Raikyak with double quarter circle forward and kick. Guy is a character I wasn't very good with. Aside from his Whirlwind Kick, his other 2 specials have follow-up inputs that tend to lead to me getting hit out of them. That being said, I think they did a good job adapting this beat-em-up character into a fighting game. Guy was never my favourite of the playable Final Fight characters, but his inclusion here does pave the way for more of them appearing in the future. And I like how this game explains why he missed the one Final Fight game he wasn't in. He shares his stage with Ryu, but Guy's is later in the day, the dojo is closed and there are people hanging out after school and work. He gets a remix of the first stage theme from Final Fight, which works well for him, but it does bother me that that track is also used as Hagar's theme in the Marvel vs Capcom games. If Hagar ever does get in a Street Fighter game, they'll have to give him a different theme because Guy already has this one. Our next Final Fight character now, with that game's second boss, Sodom. After the collapse of the Mad Gear gang when Belga fell out a window and died, Sodom went into training in Japan. Once his training was complete, he sets off to find stronger fighters to restart Mad Gear with. Sodom's final opponent is Guy, the man who helped put him out of a job. Sodom has his GT strike with a Z input and punch, his power slam with a full circle and punch, and his spine grinder with a full circle and kick. His super combos are the Meido no Miyage with double quarter circle forward and punch, and his Tenchu Sats with double full circle and punch. Sodom is another slow grappler with full circle command inputs, so I don't enjoy playing as him. Even a very famous part of his characterization hasn't been introduced yet, so I can't praise that either. I can praise them for just putting him in the game at all though. He's just a one-off boss in a single Final Fight game. They could have just left him to be forgotten, but they decided to expand on him. So many bosses and even a couple generic enemies have since gained this treatment, and every one of them is better for it. And I hope they keep it up. There's still a couple Final Fight 1 bosses who haven't made the jump to playable yet. Sodom's stage is an abandoned snowy train yard at night. It's a perfectly fine stage, looks nice, but I don't know why it's Sodom's stage in particular. His theme is alright, it's supposedly a combination of the Final Fight warehouse and subway themes, but personally I don't really hear a subway in it. But I think my attempts to give my thoughts on each theme in as little words as possible shows that I am not a music expert. But now we can move on to the first of our new characters, albeit one who existed and was referenced in Street Fighter II, Charlie Nash. Charlie is a captain in the US Air Force and Guile's best friend. Back in Street Fighter II he was mentioned by Guile as having been killed by M. Bison, meaning his days are already numbered. When he discovered members of his own unit selling drugs, Charlie learns of Shadaloo. He then learns that high-ranking members of the military are in Shadaloo's pockets and goes on a lone undercover investigation to bring down both Shadaloo and those who enable them. Of course, his final opponent is M. Bison. Having received the same training as Guile, Charlie shares his moves. The Sonic Boom, charge back forward and punch, is done by Charlie one-handed. His flash kick, charge down up and kick, has him kick twice. 3 super combos for him. Sonic Barrage with charge back forward and punch. Crossfire Blitz with charge back forward and kick. Somersault Justice with charge down back, down back, up forward and kick. Had to go in 2-player to make that one work. Gameplay wise, Charlie is Guile, and I don't enjoy playing as Guile because he's a charge character. However, I like Charlie much more than Guile. He's just cooler in every way. He throws his Sonic Booms one-handed, his outfit is better, he has much cooler silly anime hair, and he has eyebrows from the start instead of having to wait 30 years for them. He shares his stage with Ken, but Charlie's version is later at night and far more crowded. They even have a band playing, but I don't hear any of those instruments in Charlie's theme. Charlie's theme is very good by the way. Tries to have the same heroic tone as Guile's theme while managing to be completely different. I can't decide whether I choose this or Adon's theme as my favourite new character theme in this game. That just leaves us with our other newcomer and the last of the game's default cast, Rose. Rose is a fortune teller whose own special magical power, Soul Power, begins reacting to an evil presence with a similar power. Rose has to find the user of this power and seal it away. Her final battle reveals that, of course, she was feeling M. Bison and his Psycho power. Rose has her Soul Spark with half circle forward and punch, her Soul Reflect with quarter circle back and punch. When done with Light Punch it absorbs projectiles, when done with the other punches it reflects them. Finally her Air Throw with Z input and punch. Her super combos are the Aura Soul Spark with double quarter circle back and punch, the Aura Air Throw with double quarter circle forward and punch, then the Soul Illusion with double quarter circle forward and kick. That last one is a temporary power up rather than a big attack. Rose is a character I don't gel with. I struggle with timing reflectors in games with these kinds of inputs, the Soul Spark doesn't feel worth a half circle, and the Air Throw I could just never get the positioning right with. And as a character, I also don't have much of an opinion on Rose. In fact, I'd forget about her a lot. I remember being about 16 back when Vanilla Street Fighter 4 was the newest game, doing a lot of those can you name all Street Fighter characters in such and such a time limit things, and when I'd run out of time I was always forgetting Rose and El Fuerte. So when she reappeared in Super Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5's final season, she was the returnee I was always the most ambivalent over. I know she's inspired by a JoJo character, but I'd never watched or read that. The only JoJo I'm familiar with is Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo. Rose's stage is shared with Birdie, but at sunset, and since Rose is actually Italian, it fits her more. The other side to me always forgetting about Rose is that I get to rediscover how much I like her theme music constantly. Now those are the standard 10, but you'll have seen me mention M. Bison as the final opponent in many characters' arcade runs. To play as Bison, hover over the random select and press down, down, left, left, down, left, left, and then light and heavy punch or kicks together. M. Bison here is earlier in his Shadaloo career, has only just developed the Psycho Crusher, and is still looking to gather strong fighters to make it a true threat. His final opponent is Rose, for the same reason she has Bison as hers. He retains his old moves, the double knee press with charge back, forward and kick, the head stomp with charge down, up and kick with a follow-up Psycho Fist by pressing punch after connecting, the Skull Diver with charge down, up and punch, which can also be followed up with a Psycho Fist. He has some new moves too. The Psycho Shot is done with charge back, forward and punch. Then he has a teleport that is done with quarter circle in the direction you wish to teleport, and then a punch and kick together. The Psycho Crusher is now a super combo with charge back, forward and punch. He also has the knee press Nightmare with charge back, forward and kick. Despite my struggles with charge characters, Bison is the one I enjoyed the most in this game, and I like him so much more in Alpha than in Street Fighter 2. For one, he has a projectile, which is nice. Second, I just think his design is better. I know his more stocky proportions are contentious, but I at least prefer it over his look in SF2. The cape helps him out a lot too, along with the fact that he floats instead of walks. The only real downgrade in terms of fun is not being able to throw out a Psycho Crusher whenever I want. For whatever reason, he shares a stage with Sodom, but in the day. I guess if Shadaloo deals drugs and is in its infancy, I guess Bison having to start off sneaking around train yards makes a bit of sense. I like this game's version of Bison's theme more as well, it feels much more fitting for a main villain than it did in 2. But now we have two more secret characters who haven't been alluded to yet. If on the first stage you hold start, a heavy attack and forward while selecting your character, you will trigger a secret fight against Akuma. He's just as hard as he was in Super Turbo. To play as him, go to the random select and press down, 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 left, 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 and a light and heavy punch or kick together. Like many others, Akuma's alpha story isn't fully decided yet, he's just looking for opponents that may match his overwhelming power. His final opponent is M. Bison because maybe his psycho power fits that description. He retains his take on Ryu and Ken's moveset with the same inputs, the Go Hadouken that becomes the diagonally thrown Zanku Hadouken when done in the air, the Go Shoryuken that hits twice when done with medium punch and 3 times with heavy punch, the juggle enabling Tatsumaki Zanku Kyak, plus the Shakunetsu Hadouken with half circle forward and punch. Both his forward and backwards Ashura Senku return with Z inputs in the direction you want and all 3 punch or kick buttons. He also gains the Zenpo Tenshin, a roll along the ground with quarter circle back and punch, a somersault that ends with a sweep when left to finish, but also different enders when punch or kick are pressed. Akuma also has the most super combos at 4. There's the Tenma Go Zanku in the air with double quarter circle forward and punch. Doing that input on the ground gets me the Mesatsu Go Shoryu. Double half circle back and punch is the Mesatsu Go Hado. And finally, it always surprises me to think that Akuma's iconic Shungoku Sats is not actually part of his moveset in his first appearance in Super Turbo. It makes its gameplay debut here with light punch, forward, light kick, heavy punch, and can only be done with a full level 3 super meter. First time I pulled it off, I was like, fucking yes, and then Adon kicked me out of it. More reason for me to not like him. Akuma is always a lot of fun, and he may be the most fun character in this game for me. But then again, we are still in the time where he is deliberately made to be better than everyone else. His lower health isn't much of a deterrent because I'm always getting my ass kicked in this game regardless. Plus he gains the Shungoku Sats, making his moveset truly complete in this game. I also think Akuma is one of those characters who benefited hugely from the Alpha series. He's certainly mysterious and tough in Super Turbo, but I've always felt he looked off in the SF2 sprites. With Alpha, they refined his features and he now looks more recognisable as Akuma. We also get to learn what makes him tick in the Alpha sub-series, but of course Alpha 1 is pretty bare bones in that department, so it's not here. Same goes for his theme music. It sounds so much closer to what we'll expect from the Akuma theme going forward, and to me is much better than the original SF2 version. And finally, the buttons you hold on victory will allow you to choose a specific victory quote among your character's large selection. Win 5 matches in a row using the same victory quote and you unlock a fight against Dan Hibiki. To play as Dan, highlight the random select and press light punch, light kick, heavy punch, medium punch. Like others, Dan is expanded in later games. Right now what we know about him is that his father was killed in a fight with Sagat, which Dan wants revenge over. He gets going right over to Thailand after hearing Sagat was defeated, refusing to miss out on his chance at revenge. Of course, his final opponent is Sagat, who does not recognise him. He does remember Dan's father as he was the one who took Sagat's eye. Dan's take on the Ryu and Ken moveset specifically parodies the Kyokugen Karate moveset from Art of Fighting, which is why he is Robert Garcia's head on Ryo Sakazaki's body but with a pink gi. He even has the black undershirt. The Gadoken, Quad Circle Forward and Punch, is the Kouken when at an empty meter, but can never gain more range. His Dankukyak, Quad Circle Back and Kick, is to take on the Hienjipukyak. The Koryuken, Z Input and Punch, isn't that much of a parody since the Shoryuken and Koho are pretty much the same. For super combos, the Shinku Gadoken with double Quad Circle Forward and Punch, the Hishoburaiken with double Quad Circle Back and Kick, then the Koryu Rekka with double Quarter Circle Forward and Kick. Despite being the joke character, since Dan's moveset uses Ryu and Ken's as a base, it means I still have an easier time playing as him than half of the rest of the cast. Dan's always been a laugh, but once again, he's not quite finished yet. For his first appearance, he doesn't show too much of his goofy personality outside his ending. Right now he has only 2 moves to effectively parody Art of Fighting. It does remind me that I should really get around to doing Art of Fighting 2 at some point. The first game was done all the way back in episode 9. And then there's his face. He looks too normal and serious here. His next appearance will fix that though. They got his theme music right though. Silly and cheesy and perfect for a guy like Dan. And that's the game's full roster. A decent one I'd say. We have a nice balance of the popular SF2 characters, then a nice equal 2 SF1 returnees, 2 newcomers and 2 Final Fight crossovers. And that's before we have our 2 hidden bosses and Dan. The main issue I think you may have noticed however is that a chunk of these movesets I just don't click with. With such a small roster, every charged character and slow grappler is a large percentage of the playable cast I struggle to enjoy playing as. One thing I did realise is how little of this game I actually remember, and how much of what I thought I remembered was actually Alpha 2. For example, I was certain Alpha 1 also had Zangief, Dhalsim and Gen on the roster, but no, I was thinking of Alpha 2. But that just leaves finishing the game as everyone and checking out their endings.
KO.
Sagat has a whine at Ryu and threatens to kill him. Ryu does not care. He feels let down that Sagat is too much of the crybaby to give him a proper rematch. He leaves Sagat to feel sorry for himself and meditates on what it means to be a warrior. Chun-Li has Bison beat, and he still thinks that he's in the position to demand that she join Shadaloo. She turns him down and Bison reveals that he was the one who killed her dad when he goes for a surprise attack. She wakes up in hospital being told that Bison escaped to Thailand by a guy who's trying to pull off Charlie's hair and failing, and a guy who looks just like Bison in disguise. Charlie reports Bison's capture to his base and requests a unit to pick them up. But while Charlie is distracted, Bison gets up behind him and kills him to provide Guile's motivation for Street Fighter 2. Bison gets picked up by those he's paying off in the army. Ken and Ryu praise each other's skills and part ways to return to their home countries. Back in America, Ken easily wins a tournament and this is where he meets his future wife Eliza, who starts off by asking him his motivation for fighting. "There's a guy I really want to beat up" is good enough for her. Guy feels that his years of practice have reached their natural conclusion and he is now ready to be in Final Fight 3. He also mocks Bison for wasting his power on being a dickhead and leaves him to reflect on his loss face down in the snow. Bison reflects on the fact that he really wants to kill Guy now. Bernie wins his place within Shadaloo and admits his true desire is to beat up Americans. He picks up this tiny man with one thing and decides he might just try and take over Shadaloo next. Sodom achieves his goal of restarting Mad Gear. He even managed to gather up Damned, Poison, Hugo, Rolento, and 3 other generics I can't remember the names of or be arsed to look up. He reveals a new name of this rebuilt Mad Gear gang, just trying to write the name Mad Gear in kanji. Everyone calls him an idiot. Aeon celebrates his victory over Sagat and gets a job offer from Bison. But Aeon doesn't care about Bison's drugs and tells him to piss off, leading to the two fighting. Rosa's soul power overwhelms Bison's psycho power and seals it away, making her pass out. Except she failed and Bison still has it. Sagat has had his revenge over Ryu, but of course revenge leaves him feeling empty. He considers the look of pity Ryu gave Sagat and considers that maybe Ryu let him win to get Sagat off his back. While the other thinks this, Bison shows up to give him the 4th spot as the King of Shadaloo, with Vega and Balrog already with him. Bison overpowers Rosa's soul power and kills her, now feared to be unstoppable by even the narrator. With his defeat of Bison, Akuma declares himself to be above all others. As he reflects on his defeats of his brother Goken and Master Gotetsu, he considers his journey to be at an end, but he struggles to consider his purpose past it. Now that Dan has been declared the best, he rolls around yelling his victory to his dead dad, misspelling Sagat's name. Bison offers him a job, promising to make him the strongest in the world, but that loser doesn't realise he's already talking to the strongest in the world and has to leave with his tail between his legs throwing out weak threats. And that's Street Fighter Alpha. It is a good game, but it feels incomplete to me in a way. It's hard to tell why. It has a decent sized roster for being the newest technical jump in 1995. It may be half a stage as being slight edits of another. It may just be that Street Fighter Alpha 2 did such a good job replacing it that Alpha 1 doesn't have much of its own identity. Normally when a Street Fighter game is outright replaced like this, it's by an updated version of that game, not a sequel. As in, Alpha 2 replaces Alpha 1 in the same way Super Street Fighter 4 replaced Vanilla Street Fighter 4. But as I said, it's still a good game that plays well and looks and sounds great. When it stacks up to the rest of the series I've covered so far, well, it's infinitely better than Street Fighter 1, but that doesn't take much. I place it above the first version of Street Fighter 2, but I feel the later versions have more to offer. But before we go, there is one little handheld port to look at, and the reason it took me so long to make this video after recording the arcade version, before I started to just use emulators for expensive ports that would only get a couple minutes of video time anyway. It's Street Fighter Alpha on the Game Boy Color. Now, I have covered a Game Boy Color fighting game port from this developer before, as they also made the Game Boy Color port of X-Men Mutant Academy, and I thought that was shit. But thankfully, this is so much better that it's almost unbelievable these were by the same people. You have all 13 characters and their stages, although total amount of music tracks had to be slashed in half. The graphics look very primitive even for the Game Boy Color, but that helps the animation feel more fluid and less stiff like the more detailed Street Fighter 2 Game Boy port. And it plays really well actually, full movesets and everything, including the super combos. If anything, I found a lot of moves easier to pull off here than on the arcade version. Of course, you have to shrink down from 6 buttons to 2 based on how long you press the button. I'm genuinely impressed. The only thing is, since I have nothing to complain about and since there's no special exclusive content to point out, there isn't much left to talk about. Ending screens were cut, just text over the character select screen icon. But yeah, this is one of those cases like the Master System port of Streets of Rage or the Game Gear port of Fatal Fury Special, where despite being technically inferior and not the true experience, the port is too good for me to rank it anywhere lower without feeling in the wrong place. So it will be ranked in the same place as the arcade original.